An economic report and budget memo about Idaho's revenue outlook generated questions last week. Questions that we took to political leaders on the red and blue teams for perspective on. The report shows that Idaho's general revenue collections are below projections, paired with direction from the governor's budget's office to state agencies. What would budget cuts look like at a few different levels, hypothetically? Now, some see this as a sign of problems on the horizon. Others say that projections fall short sometimes, and Idaho is positioned just fine, business as usual. Well, we spoke with the governor's budget director today about the projections, memo on potential holdbacks, and if she's concerned about the state of Idaho's economic future. A state budget report filed at the end of May shows Idaho's projected revenue collections, that's money that comes into the state, it's $141 million below the target set by lawmakers. The report, paired with a memo from the governor's budget chief, has created questions about cuts in Idaho's financial position.
Is there concern, I guess, about the economy here in Idaho and budget projections?
No, I mean, we go through this process every year. There's no panic here. We're trying to be prepared. We're trying to understand exactly where we're at from both a revenue and a spending standpoint, and be prepared to make the best decisions we can when we submit the budget next year.
Lori Wolf is the administrator of the Division of Financial Management. She wrote the late May memo that prompted some to have a conversation.
This is very normal. Every year, try to get it out by the 1st of June. We send out what we call a budget framework to give agencies guidance on kind of where we are revenue-wise, what we're looking for in terms of budgets.
Wolf explains there is nuance in different budget projections in play. One set by Idaho lawmakers in the budgeting committee and one set by a staff economist.
Legislature increased our revenue number by an additional $50 million for fiscal year 25. So they increased that. We kept our baseline at our projection that we track. So we're just under $100 million short of our revenue projections, which is just under 2%, so still pretty good.
With that said, there is still a shortage on the projection, but Wolf says there are strong metrics and context to factor in.
Growth in revenue in both sales tax and in income. We saw about a 6% increase in withholdings, which shows strong wages and strong earnings still in households. So from an economic standpoint, we're not concerned. From a budget standpoint, we just want to make sure that we're in alignment with what the revenues are that we as a government can spend.
In the spirit of that concept, Wolf's memo asked agencies to internally prepare budget holdback scenarios of 2%, 4%, and 6%.
How would you describe what was written and kind of the activity that was assigned to agencies?
Yes, we did not ask any agencies to submit rescissions in their budget or to cut any funding for fiscal year 26 or 27. We've had years and years of record revenue growth and a huge influx of federal spending that is also, could change. So we're still watching to see what's going to happen at the federal level with the big, beautiful bill. There may be some impacts on state budgets with that, and we need to be ready for that. But really, it's kind of a reset and a prioritization for agencies. They're not huge cuts, and we have not asked them to submit it with their budgets. We've just asked them to be prepared.
The biggest slice of the budget pie in Idaho is education. So when conversations about cuts are floated, there can be concerns that public education could take a hit. But Wolf adds a key piece of context to the budget memo.
That memo went to only executive agencies. The Department of Education is under Superintendent Critchfield, and they do not receive that memo. So part of that memo was not asking public schools to do holdbacks. We will be looking at opportunities of where we need to invest in education, and depending on revenue, that will be the place that we're looking first.
From Wolf's perspective, the conversation is similar to one that an Idaho family may have at their dining room table.
It's really easy to just spend what you get, and sometimes you have to take a step back and think about, are we spending it on the right things? So that's the exercise. After 4 years of record revenue growth and influx of federal spending, we're starting to normalize that federal money isn't coming in. And what we're really asking agencies is what really matters and where are our priorities.
And there's been some comments that the projection coming up short is because of $400 million in tax cuts that the Idaho legislature passed this past session. The governor originally said he wanted $100 million. Lawmakers went to about $400 million. Well, Administrator Wolf tells me that those cuts were already anticipated and budgeted for during the 25 session. The tax cuts are set to go into effect in fiscal year 2026, so in a few weeks. So she was very clear when I asked that the tax cuts are not the reason for the current revenue projection coming up short, but it is something they monitor heading into future fiscal years.